My generation like
We okay. As long as we got music, we gon' dance all day. He gon' vote Taylor Swift, she gon' vote Kanye. Yeah, yeah. Election time is coming.
Come on.
We okay. As long as we got music, we gon' party all day.
Hi, I'm Bill Wordy, editorial director of Billboard. I'm here with Wyclef Jean for our live Q&A. Thank you for joining us.
How you doing, brother?
Good, good.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank
It's
you
all
very
over
much.
Twitter, man.
It's blowing up Twitter that I'm old.
No, it's your birthday. It's a movie on Twitter right now.
Well, I want to point out before we get into things that this is sponsored by AT&T Code Scanner. I'm using the excellent BlackBerry Torch here to take live questions from you via Twitter. You can send questions to @billboard.com. For those of you that are joining us today, if you want some behind-the-scenes footage, you can go to billboard.com tomorrow when we post up the archives of what is sure to be a fantastic conversation. You can use AT&T Code Scanner software. Download it at http://scan.mobi. Come back to billboard.com, and you'll be able to unlock all sorts of great stuff with Wyclef. So, Wyclef, how are you, man?
I'm tired. How are you?
You tired? I'm kind of tired, too. I'm kind of tired. It's my birthday. I'm old, you know?
I know how you do. You probably been partying all week.
Not well, you know. I mean, we've talked about how I kind of party, and you're always in the books and everything.
Yeah,
and,
I'm
you
always
know.
into the books.
But one day you'll hang with me, right? No, you know. All kidding aside, you know, you've been a friend of Billboard over the years. I'd like to think Billboard's been a friend of yours.
Yes.
You know, we kind of were looking out for you, man. You've had a crazy couple of 6 months, a year. What's been going on with Haiti? What's been going on with, you know, your political aspirations? So, how are you doing right now? I mean, how's your mind state? You feel like you're coming out of something?
Well, I feel much better.
Yeah.
It was you don't get into politics because you're trying to be popular.
Right.
You get into politics because you're like, I have to make a change. Stepping into the ring, you have to understand that all bets is off. And I had one focus. The focus was after the earthquake, I went to Haiti. I was picking up bodies on the ground, and I came back to the States determined that within the reconstruction of the country, the youth population have to be included. So you can't have a reconstruction plan without the youth. So I felt that this was the time for us, and because the whole international community, for the first time, were all focused on Haiti, and that's why I decided that I would run.
You thought maybe you could turn a terrible situation into a real opportunity.
I felt that we can take our turn to have a 25-year cycle of a new political party that can make a change. I didn't think that a change would happen in the course of 5 years. I thought what we were able to do was send a different signal than the signal that's going out right now about Haiti.
How surprised were you when the electoral council said that you couldn't do this?
I wrote a song about them. I said that they all should be in prison.
Yeah.
I said one by one we should put all of them in prison. What happened is that I came to this country when I was 9 years old.
Sure.
And I know the American Constitution. And there's laws. Now, Haiti has its own constitution, and the Electoral Council has their own constitution. When they said that the case of residency, that's propaganda. I have a piece of paper in my house. This is why I contested it in the courts after. When they said residency, that means you have to be in the country for 5 years? No. That means you have to have a house in the country, business in the country, and paying your taxes. Our papers from the courts says everything. Yes, 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 you have everything. And then at the end, it says reject. So we went to the courts and said reject on what count. Till today, they can't tell us.
What was the hardest part of all of this?
Brother, the hardest part of all this.
I mean, you were kind of like Job in the middle of this for a long time. I mean, your people were under all this destruction. You wanted to help the political system there, didn't support you in that effort. What was, you know...
The hardest part in this whole thing is not me running and getting ousted. It's not getting punched left and right. You know, people taking shots at me. The hardest part was January 12th. like 24 after the quake, landing on the ground and going through Port-au-Prince, and the whole place looked like apocalypse.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part. 1.5 million people still in the tents. That's the hardest part.
Yeah. You dealt with some bizarre sort of swipes from the sideline during this period. You had like Sean Penn. I think media made more than maybe Praz intended it to. But like when Praz came out and said that he wasn't going to vote for you if you were able to run for president, your former bandmate in the Fugees. Who did you? I mean, I know you actually. I mean, at a recent concert, right? You finally kind of came back and you let some frustration out, which is more than understandable. How do you feel about this now? I mean, are you trying to move on from it, or have you made any peace with these folks, or is it just you've kind of said your piece? Because in concert you were kind of like, you took Sean Penn to task for I think doing a little bit of the white powder. You took Praz to task, and I think I felt, because I mean I know you a little bit at this point, and I think that the people that know you have a really good heart. And I think that what I took out of that scenario was just sort of the frustration, finally finding a little bit of a spot to come out. Is that kind of where your head was? And
Well, what happened is, as a candidate, you represent the country.
yeah,
And you represent the country, and you are running for political office. So there's a standard, there's a calmness.
Yeah.
You have to, you have to be ready for everything.
you have to exude presidential kind
Yeah.
of
You want to
vibe.
be commander in chief, so
Yeah.
you can't be pissed off at anything. So once I got ousted from that, I had a show at Hot 97
Yeah.
with the guitar. And, I went back to the element, which even allowed me to be able to be on the world stage, with a guitar. And I took what everyone that naturally knows Wyclef from the hip hop era since the Fugees know, that I don't like bullies, So if you come at me, it's not going to end up too well for you. So I took a few jousts, and the jousts that I took were jousts that I took, out of a frustration because I couldn't talk at the time when I was running for office. But since then,
Did it feel good to finally kind of get that off your chest a little bit? Just let people know that you weren't lying down on all that?
Well, no, because I mean, people that knows me understand that I was running for office, and at the same time, though, understand it was a bit childish, though,
Yeah.
within my character, to still have demoted myself, right, and say, you know what, I'm gonna joust at these guys. That was a bit childish, but
But sometimes it feels a little bit good though. Even
yeah, that was a bit childish, but I have a little bit of my daughter in me sometimes,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
so afterwards though, as a man, since then I spoke to Sean Penn. I got on the phone, had a great conversation with him, and my thing is not to push people out of Haiti. It's always been to bring people into Haiti,
Right.
whether if it's Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, I was.
So if Sean can be part of the answer, then you're happy for that.
I think that anyone who, after the quake, spends 6 months living basically out of a tent, has the right to have an opinion about man. You know what? Politically, this is what I think. My only problem with Sean Penn was that we didn't have a chance to have a conversation where he can say, well, what are your policies? What are you going for? But since then,
It felt bizarre. Yeah, I mean that's exactly right, because it felt bizarre to me. Like when I was watching CNN and they're like repeating Sean Penn, questioning like where you were. It's like I don't know a lot of people that have done more for Haiti over the last few years than Wyclef. So that part didn't sit true to me. It must have just hurt to hear that kind of thing being out there in the media.
No, that didn't really affect me. Like if you notice that
That's funny because I got upset for you.
Yeah. No. Like my fans and my people, I didn't really get upset at that because he's still on the ground and he's doing his work. I got to look past that. The only thing that I was upset at, I just wish that there was a conversation prior to the way we just talked. We just had a conversation. If we had that conversation, it wouldn't have got to that level, So we spoke as men, and I'm glad he's in the country doing a lot of work.
How did that come to be, that phone conversation? Who finally reached out?
The phone conversation came from the president, the current president of Haiti,
Mm-hmm.
Rene Preval. He got on the phone, and he was like, "Listen, you're a patriot of the country. You've always been that." And Sean's been here for months, and for the country to move forward, unity is important. So it was just important to show unity, because that's what I represent. As far as prize, is it didn't affect me at all. I didn't expect anything less from him. That's like prize. But with Sean, I took that seriously, because he always steps up when it comes to issues, and he has his own opinions about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
The elections are November 28th in Haiti. There's 19 candidates now for president there. Whoever wins is going to have the opportunity to, divvy out and spend some $9 billion in donated funds to hopefully, make that country what it needs to be. Who are you pulling for? Who needs to win that election in order to make Haiti as strong as it can be?
Well, the first thing is $1 billion per year, right?
Yeah.
Towards the reconstruction right now. You do the math and you says, what do that really mean? Like, how many different companies are going to get the contract? Who's going to get the employment? And how is this going to bring education into the picture? That's $1 billion a year. Now, the money that's the donors promised, there's only 7% of that money that came in. That means now somebody has to go ahead and start to talk to these donors, because unless these donors start to bring in more than that billion, which is promised, there's no government that's going to be able to do anything. It's going to be totally impossible. The only people that will make a profit are contractors.
We saw that happen in Iraq, for example. It's not a new concept.
Iraq, New Orleans, and Haiti is heading towards that direction right now. So we have 4 candidates that are in the lead. We can have our first female president, Maniga. The second is Jude Celestin, which is President Preval's pick. The third is Michelle Mateli, Sweet Mickey, which is in the race. And, he's on my album, The Carnival, 1997, the last song, just to show you how popular this guy is. We all love him as Haitians. Like, he's our Haitian Michael Jackson or Fela Kuti from Nigeria.
Can he do the job? Can he take care of business like that?
Well, the thing about Mickey, what I notice is he's always been an activist. That's what I could say about him. And when I speak about him, I said, I don't want no one to underestimate him, because it's the same way they was like, well, Wyclef, what is your policies? And I heard a debate with him the other night, and he's like, man, listen, y'all all talking about y'all going to do this, y'all going to do that, but y'all have had the country for 25, 30 years with a political party and have not done nothing. And this is what the youth want to hear. And there's the fourth, which is Charlito Baker, and there's a fifth, which is Seyon. My position, which I strongly said that Wyclef is not a puppet show, and I'm not a, there's no puppet masters for me. If that's the case, they would have let me run. So being that there's no puppet masters for me, I've spoken to different candidates, and I have to take a realistic approach. The realistic approach is to encourage people to go vote, but at the same time, to me personally, to come in and say, well, I'm supporting this candidate.
Yeah, I mean, because there's no question that you would have been a serious candidate in this election if they had allowed you to run. By any polls estimates, you may well have become the president of Haiti. So you have a certain amount of power, and with that power comes a certain amount of, I think, responsibility to want to see what you would have done for Haiti carried out in policy. Pick the person that would kind of take care of business the way you'd like to see it taken care of?
Yeah, well, 52% of the population is the youth vote.
Yeah.
And they're waiting to see what I have to say.
No pressure.
Yeah, and I encourage them to vote, but as far as Wyclef Jean, will I vote? Yes, I will vote, and I have a decision to make in a couple of days. What I am encouraging is democracy, and do not mess with the ballot booths. Don't take them ballots, burn them, and move them around. Because my movement on the ground, we will find it and we will report it to the international community.
So you just want to see peace happen, a nice orderly election.
I want to see fair elections.
But you're not ready to pick a candidate yet. You're still researching your own.
No, I can't give that responsibility to myself at this current moment. No.
For those people that have seen what's been going on in Haiti and still would like to help in some way, is there anything for people to do? Like, if I wanted to help right now, is there anything for me to do?
Yeah, there's a lot to do because we are basically out of sight, out of mind, right? Yeah. So it's people like me and you talking about it right now. Billboard.com, shameless plug, talking about it right now.
I didn't even ask for it.
That made this happen. The thing is, the first thing you could do is find an NGO. Look on your website, your internet. Find an NGO that's working in Haiti that's transparent to what your beliefs are. Go on the website. See the transparency of something you want to do. If your interest is, I want to adopt a child out of Haiti, go on the internet. If your interest is, I want to be part of the rebuilding process, go on the internet. If your interest is, I'm interested in education. Every 3 months, I can give 3 days here. Go on the internet, find that NGO.
Seek it out and find your opportunity.
Seek it out because it's all there, Over 80,000 aid workers in the country.